If women are hypergamous and men are hypogamous is a good thing, then why are so many people lying to you about it? Why is there so emotionally charged rhetoric online involving male-female relationships today? And how do we fix it? The reason why so much relationship content online these days is so one-sided and extreme and aggressive towards the opposite gender is because people are lonely, all right? Men like women, women like men. We like to have relationships. We like to get married. We like to have children with each other. Even if you take all of the necessities away, you give women resources, you give men porn online, you give like men and women the things that they really still need from the opposite sex. We still want each other, right? We still want to have those relationships. And the problem is that millennials and Gen Z are the loneliest generations and have lower marriage rates, have lower relationships, and I think at a certain point we have worse quality of relationships. But also, society doesn't want us to get married and have children, right? Society wants us to be kind of independent and just make money and not have kids and care about the environment or care about people's issue, care about men's rights, women's rights. There's no caring about the children. There's no caring about having a good relationship anymore. And it's just gotten so convoluted, and people are angry and people are upset and they're lonely. And when people are lonely, they lash out. But the problem is that we don't talk to each other. There's a breakdown in communication, especially between men and women, but just in general. Millennials, we text, we go online, we surf the web. We don't really get into friend groups the same way that our parents did, right? Gen Z is even worse. Everything Gen Z was online, especially during like 2020 to 2023. There was a breakdown in even friendships at the time because people weren't allowed to see each other. And that leads to loneliness. Right? We have a very isolated, lonely couple of generations, Gen Z, Gen Millennial, and probably Gen Alpha is gonna be pretty lonely as well. Now, when people are lonely, it's really bad for the psyche. Like, it's not good for people to feel so alone all the time. And it's not good for people to obsess about others. Now, when you take a man who is afraid to ask a woman out, or you take a woman who's had like so many bad relationships, she just doesn't want to engage with men anymore, you end up with people who montage in their heads, right? They come up with fantasy relationships. Maybe they meet somebody in real life who doesn't know they exist, and they like think about their perfect life together. Oh, here's us getting married. Here's our children. This is what life should be like. And then when they actually meet each other, this person has no interest in them, or even worse, turns them down, and like then it feeds into a really negative cycle. And the way to like counteract all that is to talk with each other, right? We need to have more friends. We need to have more social relationships. And I'm one to talk. I don't have a lot of friends. I've moved different states a lot, and I don't have any friends in the state I currently live in. I get it. It is lonely. We need more friends. I need more friends. And then with having more friends, well, then maybe we can start talking to the other gender a bit more. Maybe we can start talking to people that we don't get along with more. Maybe we could even have a civil discussion with people with alternative viewpoints. Like, that would be something. We need to be less sensitive when it comes to alternative viewpoints. That's for sure. Something about social media has become so extreme Like, you are, like, the strongest viewpoints, the most extreme viewpoints are the ones that get the most attention, and like the moderate ones in between don't seem to get as much like virality online. And I think that's also led to, you know, people who consume content are going to consume what they're being given. So they're consuming extremism, and that is then creating echo chambers on both sides of the issue and making people more extreme. So you're lonely, you don't know how to talk to people, and now you're being fed extreme rhetoric. Like, that's a recipe. That's a recipe for people who aren't gonna get along. That's a recipe for a whole generation that's not gonna be able to get married and have children. So get out there and talk to people, limit your extreme rhetoric, try to find that middle ground of like personal relationships where you can discuss alternative viewpoints and still like a person. You can go talk to the opposite gender and not die, not get rejected, just have a decent conversation. You can ask each other out and maybe have a decent relationship if you just talk to each other. Also, online dating does not work. I tried online dating. I gave like 3 guys a chance, and there was a lot of misrepresentation, a lot of just not really having that chemistry connection, and just the way dating websites are set up just doesn't work for organically getting to know somebody. It wasn't good for me, and I don't think it's really good for anybody else. So I don't recommend dating websites, and I think it's kind of a shame that dating has really been boiled down to dating websites, because I don't think they really work. Now, the hardest problem to fix is what I've been talking about all along. Women are hypergamous, but we have too many resources. Men are hypogamous, but they don't have enough resources in a modern society. And that's a hard one to fix, because you have to take resources away from women and give them back to men. And realistically, that's not gonna fly. It's not going to be easy to do. There's no law you can really implement that would accommodate all of those. And if you do try to essentially do that, you try to take resources and give them back to men, you're going to have casualties in the process. You're going to have casualties of if you take jobs away from women, you're going to have women who are homeless. You're going to have children who are homeless, who have single mothers or widowed mothers. You're going to have men that don't know how to step up and take those jobs, because men are kind of pathetic these days, and women are too aggressive and masculine, right? They're gonna try and take those jobs back. So it's not gonna work. We can't just do that. And then we can't just say, hey, let's have an egalitarian approach, which is what we're kind of at right now. And that women have resources and men have resources, and we're pooling them to buy a house. We're pooling them to raise children. And that's just causing the other problems of, well, now if both men and women work 40 hours a week, why does the woman have to cook and clean when she comes home? Why doesn't the man help? And then that breeds resentment, because there's really no way to have a fully egalitarian marriage, a fully egalitarian relationship. You're always going to be giving and taking somewhere. And then the other part of that is, let's say you split absolutely everything 50-50. Well, what happens when the woman becomes pregnant and can't work and can't cook and can't clean? What happens when the man and woman split everything, and then the man becomes ill and he can't work, he can't provide? Like, then you come up with a situation where there is no way to be egalitarian. So are you going to stand and die on that hill, or are you going to give a little? And are you going to contribute more to the relationship than you're being given in return? And so that's why egalitarianism doesn't work in relationships, and why it only works up to a point. And so we need to fix that. We need to, as a society, get back to the point where women and men have defined roles in a relationship. You provide what you're better at providing, not an equal share. You're better at providing something. So like, I could provide more if I was able to stay at home and cook and clean. I can provide more cooking and cleaning than I can if I'm working, right? If I'm working, I have a hard time cooking and cleaning when I come home. So I can't really provide the best of either one because work makes me sick. Cooking and cleaning is hard when I work. But if I'm at home, I can cook and clean, and then, I could do more. If you're putting all of your effort into working, you're not going to put as much effort into cooking and cleaning. And if you're putting all of your effort into cooking and cleaning, you're not putting as much effort into work. And if you split that, then neither one of you is giving your full effort to either piece. It's much better if one of you, usually the man, goes and earns money, and it's better if the woman, generally one of you, stays home and cooks and cleans and takes care of the kids. It's better to have a single focus than to try and multitask, because when you have that single focus, you can put all of your effort and energy into perfecting that one thing rather than splitting it between different menial tasks throughout the day. So I think that having more defined roles in a relationship, having one single breadwinner and one person who takes care of the house, going back to a more traditional setting, would be best for relationships. And why would that be better? Because it would make things easier, it would make people happier, and it would be a better environment for raising children. Now, if we as a whole decided to shift society in that direction, so there's no mandate that says women have to get fired or quit their jobs, but if we just had that general consensus that if a woman gets married, she quits her job and starts taking care of the children instead, then you would see that generational shift. And a few generations down the road, you would see things come back to a better, healthier marriage. We also need to put a stop to all these non-monogamous relationships, talking about polyamory, harems, polygamy, open relationships. I've never met someone with an open relationship who had a healthy relationship, and I've met a lot of people with open relationships. I will go into that at a different time. But non-monogamy is not good for relationships. It's not good for children. It's not good for people. It causes a lot of jealousy and resentment. It breaks families up. It breaks relationships up. It causes a lot more trauma than it is worth. So that all needs to go away, and we need to get back to the standard male-female relationship as a whole. If you're gay, I'm not really talking to you. That's kind of a different thing. We need to keep it simple, and we need to go back to having two people in a marriage, only having one marriage per person, no divorcing, no trading up, nothing. Just two people. I guess you could have man and woman, woman and woman, man and man, but have two people in a marriage, be committed to each other, value that marriage, and don't open it up to anybody else. Don't get divorced. Put all your effort into making that one marriage work. And the one societal change we need that I personally think is one of the biggest factors in all of this is we need to value chastity more, and we need to stop sleeping around. And by that I mean you need to stop sleeping around, because I don't. I'm married and I only sleep with my husband. So what does that look like? That looks like men who do not pressure women to sleep with them, and women who value themselves, right? So let's not sleep around. Get to know each other when you date somebody. Talk. Remember that first one was communication? Talk to each other first. Figure out if your goals align, if there's long-term compatibility there. Don't just jump into bed with each other. Don't date for 2 weeks and then move in together. That's gonna make it even harder to break up. When you sleep with somebody, it makes it harder to break up with them. If you just are in a relationship with someone you haven't slept with and you realize you're not good for each other, it's a lot easier to break up. And really, it ruins everybody, right? Sleeping around ruins everybody. In general, people don't enjoy hooking up. There's been a lot of people, like you don't have to go very far to find people, men and women, who have had bad hookups. I've never really heard any good hookup stories from people. Like I really don't know any ones that are good. Like they're all pretty bad. There's a lot of depression and low self-esteem that comes out of hooking up. It ruins your ability to pair bond, which is super important for a good, healthy relationship. And that's men and women. It does affect women more, but it affects both men and women. So there's a lot of reasons that sleeping around is bad for you, and I think people all need to have a little more restraint with that. So there you have it. Stop sleeping around, communicate more. Women need to give up some resources to men so that men are more attractive to us, and then value that marriage, that men and women relationship, rather than that just straight across the board egalitarian relationship. That's how we fix society, and that's how we fix marriage. That's how we fix relationships in modern dating. No one said it was gonna be easy, okay? You're gonna really work at this. You gotta really commit to it, and you gotta do it consciously. You gotta think about this and do it consciously. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is one of 4 videos, or I'll post the big long one at the end with all the topics together. Let me know what you thought. I'll see you next week.